All right. We're holding in the middle of Perek Dalet. Middle of Perek Dalet, paragraph beginning, V'hinei shloisha levushim elu. So let's try to understand once again. Welcome, Chaim. Where we're holding. So we were discussing, the beginning of Perek Dalet discusses as follows. We have over here, to every nefesh elikis shloisha levushim, which we explained are machshava dibur ma'isa, which clothe the neshama. So they're not the neshama itself, but they are, as we say, the clothing of the neshama, which goes around our neshama, which is very important, that when a person is oisik in Torah, or he's doing a mitzvah, he clothes his neshama with machshava dibur ma'isa of tariag mitzvahs Torah. That was the Lashon of the Heilige Baal Tanya. Let's understand a little bit more of what's going on and how this can become practical. V'hinei, shloisha levushim elu, ma'atorah mitzvah. These levushim, right, which is of course thought, speech and action, right, dibur, machshava and ma'isa, when they are used specifically for Torah and mitzvahs, af shenikroim levushim lenefesh ruach neshama, even though they're called the levush, they clothe the neshama, which we explained is not the neshama itself. We started, if you remember yesterday, asking the kasha, if the thoughts that we have are intrinsically who we are, or they're outside, they're separate to us. Okay? So what we're saying is that these levushim, which are the levushim of the nefesh, ruach neshama, when a person is oisig in Torah mitzvahs, im kol zeh, gover v'godla ma'alosom le'ein kates v'soif al mailas nefesh ruach neshama atzman. Unbelievable. You would have thought that since they're the clothing of the neshama, so they're not the neshama. The neshama is a high madrega. They're the clothing or a lower madrega. So he's saying over here, in fact, they could even be greater than the neshama that they clothe. Why? The Zohar Kodesh tells us like this: when it comes to the Rabbeinu Shalom and the Torah, it's all one. Meaning, like this: when you have a person who's very, very clever, he's a smart guy. He understands things. So it's not him. It's not intrinsically him. He's a guy and he's clever. He happens to be smart, right? You have smart people that do stupid things. You have smart people that do horrible things, but they happen to be smart. That's not who they are. It's not intrinsically them. Now, have the elef of those when it comes to Rabbeinu Shalom, the Torah and the Rabbeinu Shalom is one. As it steht in the Zohar Kodesh. It's one mitzias. That means the Rabbeinu Shalom and the Torah is one perish. The Iraisa he. That means the Torah is the Chachma and is the Ratzon Hashem. It's not outside of Hashem. It's not like we have the Rabbeinu Shalom and then his Torah. His Torah is Hashem. The Chachma of the Torah, the mitzvahs of the Torah, is the Rabbeinu Shalom. As I state in Zohar Kodesh. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvoido v'atzmai k'lo echad. It's all one. Ki hu hayodeya. We spoke about that from the Rambam. We said that previously, right? Now, that means, for example, you could be very friendly to someone else. You could be very close to a good friend of yours. But Lemaisi, you're still distant to him. But since we've been explaining our neshama is the son of Hashem, it's a result, it's the extension of Hashem, that means, and we said this yesterday, that the Zohar Kodesh calls the Torah the limbs of the Rabbeinu Shalom Kaviyachol. So that means what's happening is that when I perform a mitzvah, I'm not just doing a mitzvah. What happened is the garment of our neshama, which is clothing our neshama, becomes one with Hashem, which is why it's greater than the neshama itself. You understand? Am I making sense? Yeah, it makes sense? Okay. Vav, and he's asking a kasha. The Rabbeinu Shalom, how can you say such a thing? Vav HaKadosh Baruch Hu nikra ein soif. Comes the Rabbeinu Shalom is ein soif. We say this every single day in Ashrei. The Rabbeinu Shalom's godless is something that's incomprehensible. We don't understand it. The less machshava tfisa beklal. Right? Kunei Zohar brings that down. That means the Lashon of the Zohar is no tfisa. Tfisa means to grab. You can't chap the Rabbeinu Shalom. It's not shaykh. V'chemer etzoyno v'chachmasai k'diksiv ein cheke litvunasai uksiv ha'cheke l'kai timtza uksiv kiloi machshavoisai echem. All the different Mamari Chazal of how the Rebbeinu Shalom was like no shaykhas. How can you even say and put it together? Hine, azeh amru. This is the Gemara in Megillah Amud Aleph. But Mokim Sha'ata Moitze, if you say V'yitim Nachon Motzei Shabbos, you're used to saying this, and maybe you can pronounce the word easier. But Mokim Sha'ata Moitze, Gedulasa Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shom Ata Moitze, in V'sanusai. In the place of the Gadlus, that's where you're going to find the Anova. Right now, Anova we always translate as being like humble, not low, but more like being humble, right? Now, it doesn't mean, and we know this many times, and Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest honor in the world, right? Greatest honor that walked in planet Earth. Does that mean he denied how great he was? Chas v'shalom. Moshe Rabbeinu knew exactly how great he was. Being an honor, when we're talking about the Rebbeinu Shalom's Gadlus, you find that Aniva, doesn't mean that there's denying the facts, but it means you take up no space. A real honor takes up no space. He's kind of mevatel himself, tzimtzum. He's mevatel himself into Ein Sof. That's the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what's happening over here. V'tzimtzum HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'tzoynu v'chachmosai b'tariag mitzvahs HaTorah. And the Rebbeinu Shalom was mitzamtzum himself and his ratzon and his chachma. Number one, into the tariag mitzvahs HaTorah. That means the Rebbeinu Shalom compacted his will and his chachma into the mitzvahs, into the Torah. Right? And all of the halachas and the negeya. Uvetseirufei oisius Tanakh. And also, B'tziruf, the oisius, the letters of Tanakh, right? Anyone that's familiar with Hilchos Tefillin, the Beis Yosef talks about this barichas, how the gadlus of every ois of Aleph base is unbelievable. Rabbi Shema is coming out with the Sefer and Aleph base, stuff going on this, right? With all of the Zoyas and all the Kabbalahs that's going on over there. The oisius of Tanakh are incredible. Torah Nevi'im Ksuvim. So the Rebbeinu should put the Torah of the Chachmasai into that. Udrashay Seyem Shabbat Godus Umedrashay Chachmei Nuzal. Right, and the other thing is also all the drushes that we have in the Agodas. So we have 3 stages. He just mentioned 3 stages. Stage number 1 was the practical, physical halachas. Like, for example, how big, we're learning now, how big and how high does the sukkah have to be, right? How does it work? That's practical. That's very lemaisa. Number 2, the letters of the Torah, the letters that we have in Chazal, these are written, they're physical, but they represent so much deep meaning to it. And then number 3, we have the secrets of the Torah. So the Balatanya just mentioned all of these 3. Bechdei shekol haneshama oy ruach v'nefesh shebeguf ha'adam tucha lahasigon bedaito lekayma kol ma she'efshar lekayma mehen b'maisa dibur machshava v'al yedei zeh teslabish b'chol eser b'chinosh b'shlosh levushim elu. So what we've said is like this, and we have to continue. Tomorrow we'll continue. What he said is like this. He said that the clothing that we clothe on a neshama when we learn Torah, when we do a mitzvah, is we're literally taking the Chochmas Hashem. We're taking that which the Rebbeinu Shalom put into his Torah, put into the mitzvahs, put into everything. Because after all, the Rebbeinu Shalom's commandments are him. It's his ratzon. It's what he wants. We spoke about this a couple of times ago. And when you love someone, you want to fulfill what they said. I think it was yesterday. The ava that a person has to Hashem, he wants to do the mitzvahs because he has such avas Hashem. Mimela, when a person utilizes and he does dibur machshava maisa in learning Torah, in doing mitzvahs, he's clothing his neshama kaviyachol with the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. And not only that, he says, automatically you have all of the Eser Sfiros that we've spoken about previously, right? Starting from Chabad all the way down, Chesed, Gvur, Tveres, whatever. So Mimela, all of that's clothing your neshama. That's what's happening b'shas ma'isa when you're learning a piece of Torah. That's what's happening when you're performing a mitzvah. Okay, now we have to take it a bit further as well to figure out what that means. But that's the aside of what we said in Tanya Hashem. Tomorrow we shall continue.